I'm Gaia Vince and welcome to my home museum. Today's object is a technology that enabled the creation of some of humanity's most treasured works of art and literature and science. It's the candle. Outside of the tropics, the days become dark really early during winter months. They become dark as early as 3:30 in some northern towns. And so people have to spend all their time indoors in dark, with very few and small windows. So light then has was a limiting factor for almost every economically productive activity. So from our earliest ancestry, humans have had to solve this with firelight, but working out how to bring light indoors safely and cheaply took many thousands of years. The ancients burnt rushes dipped in fat and lit oil lamps. But the first candles were not invented until Roman times, around 500 BC. And the Romans used a papyrus wick dipped repeatedly in tallow, which is animal fat, and that gave a steady, controlled flame. But they were used mainly in temples until the Middle Ages, when the collapse of the olive oil trading routes meant that fueling lamps became really expensive, and so people started making their own candles from kitchen fats or beeswax, or buying them from chandlers. So beeswax burnt cleanly without issuing lots of smoke, but it was far more expensive. But then in the 18th century, spermaceti, which is an oil from the head of the sperm whale, became widely available as a byproduct of the whaling industry. And this also burned very cleanly without the smoke and odourlessly. And it also made a bright light and a much harder, more resilient candle, so it's very popular. But it wasn't until the 19th century that the first mass-produced candles rolled out of factories. And that made candles finally affordable for the masses. So finally, ordinary people could safely and cheaply use the dark hours in their day for productive activity. Because what the candle does is replace the sun's energy with another, more expensive form of energy. And for most of our history, energy has been expensive. In 1800, the average person used 1,100 lumen hours per year for lighting. But 2 centuries later, that was 13 million lumen hours. The average consumption of light had become a whopping 11,800 times greater in just 2 centuries. And this is down to cost, because in 1800 it took a person 60 hours of labour to produce enough weak tallow light to use for 2 hours and 26 minutes a day for a year. But that same amount of human labour would produce just 54 minutes of light from an incandescent bulb. But the cost difference is phenomenal. 1 million lumen hours of artificial light cost £2.67 in Britain this century. But in the 14th century, that would have cost the equivalent of £35,000. And so that's the reason that we don't use candlelight anymore, except for symbolic and cultural reasons. After all, you can't blow out an electric light on a birthday cake and make a wish.